Are you ready to uncover the truth behind the Cinderella fairy tale? Get ready to dive into the dark and macabre version that Disney doesn't tell in its animated movie. In this video, we'll explore the most sinister and intriguing details of the true Cinderella story, revealing aspects you may have never heard of before. Come with us as we unravel the secrets behind the most famous fairy tale of all time. You're on the Horse Animated channel, and I'm really glad you're here. Remember, her name is a nickname. The princess's real name is Ella. She became known as Cinderella because the term cinder means ashes, a nickname used to mock and humiliate the girl for being a servant. Unfortunately, the story begins with Cinderella's mother's death. After some time, the girl's father met a woman and married her, who had two daughters, Lady Tremaine, Anastasia, and Drizella. So far, everything is the same as the animation, but wait, it gets worse. Cinderella's father died, and the cause of his death was the grief from an unhappy marriage. Thus, the poor girl had to stay with her stepmother and stepsisters, and, obviously, was put to work, becoming the maid of the house. Lady Tremaine was cruel, always throwing in the girl's face that her mother died in childbirth because of her, which made poor Cinderella very sad. It was a form of psychological aggression. One fine day, the prince decided to throw a ball to choose his future wife. Just like in the animation, Cinderella wanted to go to the ball to have fun, see the world, and socialize, and her sisters were also excited about the invitation. However, as in the animation, the stepmother didn't allow Cinderella to go to the ball, and that's where the story begins. Cinderella was sad and depressed, deciding to go to the tomb where her mother was buried. Around it, a tree grew, as Cinderella cried a lot. Her tears made a tree sprout. The girl created a lake as a tribute to her mother's death and then her father's death. And at that very moment when she was crying because of the ball, two birds appeared. One bird had a golden dress and the other a golden shoe. It's not made of crystal, and there's no magic in this tale, as in Disney's version. So there was no pumpkin to take her to the ball. Cinderella had to walk to the castle, yes, from her house to the castle. There's even an interpretation that suggests that these two birds stole the dress and the shoe from a maiden and gave them to the protagonist, but that's irrelevant to the story. Cinderella managed to reach the castle, attended the ball, and even danced with the prince. She seemed like a lucky woman until then. However, Cinderella visited the castle more than once to talk and get to know the prince better. The problem was that she didn't open up to him that much, and since everything was kept secret from her stepmother, she left the castle very early, before midnight, so no one would notice. It wasn't because the magic would end at midnight, but because of her fear of the stepmother finding out about these meetings. One night, the prince ordered his guards to put a sticky substance on the stairs, so that when Cinderella passed by, she would get stuck and he could spend more time with her and learn more about the young woman's life. However, when Cinderella passed by the stairs, she managed to descend, but her shoe got stuck. When Cinderella arrived home, her hair was all messy, and she was very disheveled. Of course, she was barefoot, as the shoe remained at the castle. The next day, the prince ordered the guards to find the owner of the shoe, as she was very mysterious and he had no information about her, so they had to check by the size of her foot. Now the story starts to get quite terrifying. The stepmother found out that the prince was looking for the owner of the shoe. Aware of this, she ordered her daughters to cut their feet. Specifically, she ordered one of her daughters to cut her toes and the other her heel. However, they didn't have the courage to do it until then. Obviously, the shoe didn't fit one of the daughters, but the other really cut her heel just to fit. Meanwhile, the guards were looking around the property and noticed that there was another girl in the house. They saw a girl next to a tree and a tomb. Of course, it was Cinderella herself. The guards asked her to try on the shoe too, as the prince's order was to check all the women in the kingdom. When Cinderella put it on, of course, the shoe fit. Thus, the prince found the love of his life, and they got married. At the wedding party, Cinderella's stepsisters went to the castle to apologize. Although Cinderella forgave them, the birds that helped the girl held a grudge and did not forgive the sisters. They attacked them, poking their eyes, making both of them blind. This brought a tragic end to the sisters, as they had to become beggars to survive in this condition for the rest of their lives. And of course, this is just one of the versions, as there are several and even heavier ones. But the basis of the story is the same, only some details change. One of the earliest versions was created in China in 860 BC. It's a lighter version. To summarize, the Chinese Cinderella manages to marry the king, and the stepmother and her stepsister are forced to serve the Chinese Cinderella and her son until the end of their lives. The version known as Cat Borrelhira by Giambattista Basile from 1634 is much heavier. Her name is also different. She is called Zazala. She starts to want to kill her evil stepmother under the influence of her governess. One day, the stepmother bends down to pick up clothes in a chest and ends up sticking her head inside it. Zazala closes the lid with great force, killing the stepmother. This Cinderella believed she would be free of all evils. After all, the stepmother died. However, what she didn't know is that the governess who influenced her to kill the woman ended up marrying her father, becoming her stepmother and being even crueler than the previous one. However, she has a happy ending because some fairies help the girl, and she marries a king and lives happily and peacefully. Over the years, the Cinderella narrative has continued to be reinterpreted in various ways. In some accounts, for example, it's not a fairy that appears but the spirit of the girl's mother descending from the heavens to assist her. By the way, there's a version of Cinderella coming where she'll be a brutal assassin in a terror live-action film. And you, did you already know these different versions of the Cinderella story? If there's another version you know that I haven't mentioned, feel free to leave it in the comments. Don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive notifications. There's a video on the screen for you to check out more of my content here. Until the next video.